Robert, do you mean you want to be taken through how to post discussions on the forum?
No, madam, I said that because the president has summarized everything, for those who maybe might be having challenges, they should continue posting maybe on the side chat so that they are responded to. And of course, I know the people in charge of logistics are into that. We've been helping each other. Personally, I've not had any challenge, but I was only saying that for the purposes of maybe time saving, whoever has an issue maybe can post on the chat as we continue. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you. That's wonderful. That's noted. So if anybody has issues, continue posting. Yes, our ICT team is watching the wall, and they'll be able to respond to us. Charles, let me know, how many members do we always have on a usual day?
When I look at the list, I see the members are supposed to be around 59, but sometimes the number drops down.
Okay,
to around 40.
To around 40.
Yes.
So do you think we have quorum now that I have 27?
27.
That's half of 50.
We can begin. They will be joining us.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. So thank you very much, Mr. President, for the warm regards. Dear leaders, we take this opportunity to welcome you to this unit. This session is going to be myself and Mr. Gachagua. So we are handling the concepts of strategic thinking, shared envisioning, attitude and mindset of a strategic leader, and strategy development and execution. So let me see if my colleague is already on board. Mr. Patrick Gachagua, if you're on board, you can greet us and then we just start off. Patrick, are you with us?
Yes.
Yes, so the chance is now yours to greet us and then start the class off. Thank you.
Okay. May I start by introducing myself? My name is Patrick Gachagua. I'm a lecturer here at the Kenya School of Government. I'm happy that we are together in this discussion, and I hope at the end of the day we'll have benefited from the discussion that is that we are going to start. I remember I posted a question on the implementation of vision, and because our discussion this morning is oscillating around shared envisioning. So perhaps I would want to ask your reactions to their assignment, implementation of Vision 2030. Eric, you'd want to start us off? Eric, you are mute. Please unmute.
Yes, good morning, everybody.
Eric, we can, okay, thank you, Eric.
Yes, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Yes,
morning.
Yes, let me first do the listening, then I join actually in the discussion. I hope I'm clear. I've said let me first do the listening, then I'll join into the discussion. Hope I'm clear.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Charles, Charles, you'd want to say something?
Beg your pardon? We are not communicating. You're breaking down.
Patrick, sir, you are breaking. I think you have an issue on your side in terms of network.
I just want to find out your reaction to. Oh, I'm breaking. Am I okay now? Charles, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. I'm just trying to find out our reaction to the assignment, the discussion question, which was about Vision 2030.
I think the much I can say is that once the government came up with a Vision 2030, they came up with specific pillars, each and every ministry or department was assigned to also borrow from the national Vision 2030 and to ensure that they align their vision towards the core vision of the government. For instance, for us in Parliament, we have revised our vision to read from 2019 to 2030 to ensure we are aligned with the national vision, that we work in between the framework of that vision. So we might not have achieved much as expected, but I hope the challenges should give us a way forward to ensure we'll solve the issues that were envisioned in that Vision 2030. But we ensure our framework is to achieve that vision as we approach towards 2030, because now it's 2022, we have some 8 years to go. That's what we do to ensure our strategic plans from the Parliament of Kenya are geared towards achieving the national goals of the government by Vision 2030. So we cannot work outside that framework. That's the much that I can say on my part. Are we communicating?
We seem to be losing our facilitator. I don't know what happens now.
Mr. Patrick, are we together? Hello? I think there's a problem of connectivity. Maybe, Robert, you can chip in terms of that Vision 2030 while we wait to see whether we can get in touch with the facilitator.
Okay, I think what Mwalimu was trying to say is that he posted some discussion on the forum. It's now I'm seeing. I think he did it this morning. There was three already in the country providing high quality of life towards its citizens by 2030. In a clean and secure environment. We have just completed the MTP3. So the question is discussed in Kenya Vision 2030, which of course, Mr. President, you have tried to address a bit of it. Now, number two, what has been the contribution of organization to the realization of Kenya Vision 2030? Finally, number three, what advice would you give to agencies to realize this? Of course, my take would be on the extent to which where we are in terms of implementing the Vision 2030. I think the government has done whatever it can under the circumstances, and some most of the projects which were for development towards realization of the vision have been done. Some are on course, and we've seen the expansion of the infrastructure, which of course as a long-term we've seen, of course, the achievement in the health sector, on education, the universal free and primary accessible education. Basically, we might not be far off the mark or of the line towards achieving that dream. We might not maybe achieve that by 2030. Based on the issues of course we realize that the epidemic, the COVID-19 came in, which of course has slowed our progress towards achieving all these.
Yes, Robert, you are breaking.
Thank you, Odigi, for standing in for me.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, proceed. Robert, you are going on. You are saying about the challenges which you mentioned about COVID-19.
Yeah,
the pandemic.
So I was saying, of course, based on because the national cake is
Yeah, I think Robert could also be having connection challenges. Is it only me who can?
You are right. You are right, Mr. Patrick.
Yeah. So I think I got what I got Robert talking about is the country is coming out from the challenges
yes,
of COVID.
I was also going to.
Yeah. Robert, you are saying something?
To talk about now the national cake, probably with all these very many demands, and of course there might not have been enough to maybe implement most of this.
So Robert, I think you are breaking. You have challenges with the internet.
I think the last point they have said is about inadequate resources to implement the internet projects.
So I'm not.
Yes, Robert.
You cannot hear me.
Yes, I can hear you now. Proceed. Yeah, we have lost you again.
Oh, okay, so let me take it from there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I know I brought in a question on the implementation of the Vision 2030. And one of the things that I wanted us to find out is our feeling on to what extent we have been able to implement the vision. Now we have just completed MTP3, and now we are ushering in MTP4, which is part of the implementation of, or the stages of the implementation of the Vision 2030. And the question I was asking is, to what extent we think that we have been able to implement the Vision 2030. I don't know whether, just before I can make a comment, I may request a comment perhaps from a lady this time, either Esther or Christine. Christine? Christine, can you hear me? Esther? Okay, Jennifer, is Jennifer, are the ladies on board?
Yes, we are. My name is Jennifer.
Yes.
Yeah, I think as far as the implementation of the vision is concerned, we've done fairly well, although not without a number of challenges, which some of them have to do with governance in terms of change in governance. It looks like every government that comes in comes with its own priorities, and therefore resources are channeled in accordance to the government channeled in accordance to what the government that is of the day maybe prioritizes. And also the issue of resources has been key, because resources, as it were, remain to be limited. Thank you.
Mr. Gashao, you can proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. I have seen you have made a comment on two things. One of them is priorities of government, and also the challenge of resources. And these are normal challenges in any situation when we are steering organizations. And it is very, very important that now to understand that, number one, priorities needs will be many, but it depends on how we prioritize. Again, also there is no time resources will be enough, and it depends again on how efficient and how effective we utilize the resources. And perhaps we may be talking about Vision 2030. What is the mantra of Vision 2030, Bwana Eric? Or someone else? What had we envisioned? What is it, Bwana Chando? I think I can see you are on board. What had we envisioned? What did we want to see? Bwana Chando, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, Bwana Chando can't hear me. So let me proceed. Number one, it was the desire. Okay, Sang Anthony, I can see your hand is up.
Yes. Vision 2030, one of the key mantras ensuring that Kenya becomes a middle income country. So all activities, economic and so forth, are geared to that one single objective. Patrick. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Anthony, for that comment. But I would still pin you down with a question. How does a middle-income country look like? How does a middle-income country look like, Anthony?
So we can start from the GDP, the income per capita. When you look at the country and the way various countries have been categorized, those that live under $1 a day and then those that are in the thousands, that categorizes different countries. So what we are saying is that a middle income country would be one, perhaps, when you look at the GDP as one of the key indicators. Secondly, when you look at the basic aspects concerning livelihood, when you look at employment, when you look at water, sanitation, etc., when you look at infrastructure, those are key areas that would look at a country that perhaps is middle income. When you've got good infrastructure, whether it's the roads, water, sewer, etc. Yes, in general terms.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. And I think I'll continue pestering you. Now,
okay.
Yeah, the other question I want to ask you is, do you think our leaders understand what it means to be a middle-income country? The leadership of the country, do you think we understand what it means to be a middle-income country?
So it depends. There are those leaders who are, yes, I can say there are those who understand and there are those who don't. It's both a yes and no. Those who understand may perhaps be a minority, because when you look at leaders in all spheres, national government, all the way down to the headmaster in a school, they're all leaders in their own respective rights, up to the chief. So depending on which level of leadership you are at, either national, county, government level, there are those who understand what it means, specifically those who have engaged in aspects of the economy and understand how an economy operates and how a country is then classified as middle or high income nation. So to an extent, yes, but very few understand, but majority, I think, don't understand. Yeah. We can't hear you.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Anthony, for that contribution about how a middle-income country looks like. Why I was pushing to that question is to take us to the definition of what a vision is, so that we can be able to see and ask ourselves the question whether, even when we talk about Vision 2030, do our leaders really understand what where they are taking our country? And number one, I would want us first of all to go to the definition of a vision. That is the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination and wisdom. That is the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination and wisdom. So when we say that, that is what literally a vision is. A vision is about the future. And therefore, if we have to envision, it means that first of all, we must have, or we must create, or we must have
a mental image of that desirable future. First of all, you must be able to create that future. In other words, it means going to that future, seeing how it looks like, and then coming back to implement what you saw. I don't know, I'll go back to Anthony again with this definition, because he has made a major contribution on what the Vision 2030, or what we envision Kenya to be. For example, he has talked about Kenya, when we talk about, for example, Kenya being a middle-income country. Kenya being a middle-income country. We need to ask ourselves, how does a middle-income country look like? And it means we must go there with our minds. We must take our minds there to that middle-income country. If we think Malaysia is a middle-income country, or Singapore is a middle-income country, we need to go there with our minds, and then ask ourselves the question, how is the growth of its GDP? You know, for example, Kenya and Korea at one time, they were the same. We were the same level in the 60s. Kenya and South Korea, we were together. But today, the GDP of South Korea is 50 times more than that of Kenya. What the question is? The question is, what is it that South Korea did that we didn't do? And that creates the need for us to go to that desired future and ask ourselves, what should make our GDP grow as fast so that to take us to a middle income country? That is very, very important. Then we also need, Sang also mentioned the issue of standards of living. What are the standards of living of the people in a middle income country? What is the standard? What is the current standard of living in Kenya today? Does it match the standard of living of people in a middle income country? And therefore, if you look at how we measure the standards of living of the people, whether we use GDP as a measure and other factors, for example, other factors that determine the standards of living, for example, poverty levels. We have poverty levels, we have health, we have issues of health, we have issues of education, and so on and so forth. So some of these determinants of the standards of living, we must address them so that if we say that Kenya wants to be a middle income country, how should its health system look like? How should its education system look like? How should it have in terms of access to water and so on and so forth? In terms of infrastructure, what is the status of infrastructure of a middle income country? We need to go there with our minds. That is, we create that mental image so that we can come back and implement what we are able to see. I don't know whether that works well as our definition for vision. I don't know whether there is any comment so far. Any comment? Any comments?
Mr. Gachagua, can I come in?
Yes, yes.
A comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, because what you're saying is at the core of what we are calling the concepts of strategic thinking and strategy development and execution. The question you're asking is very important. Do our leaders understand? Because strategy is about people implementing this strategy. So do we understand what it means what the future looks like, because the leader should start with the end in mind. Those are the concepts of strategy, that you start with the end in mind. So have we seen that end? And you are also asking us, do we know what it looks like for a middle income economy? And that is what is disturbing us. Because strategy has been a hula balloon, like we have a strategic plan, we are moving this, we are doing this, but do we really understand what it is that the place where we want to take our leaders to? That is why you'll go to any class or any organization, you'll try asking these important questions, and you may find, just as our colleague is saying, that very few may be aware of what it is strategic, that future is. And if that is the case, are blind people driving blind people? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Elizabeth. Any other comments? Any other comments? Yes, Donald Otieno.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think what we are discussing is quite central to the development of our country, because we have this vision, but as far as we can see at the moment, its implementation has not, despite having the NTP3 and others that have been there before, you can see that we are making very, should I call them little strides? But by now we should have made very big strides, and that is not happening. And I think it's because of what you're talking about. We probably many of our leaders don't have that future. They've not imagined it, or even if they've imagined it, probably the willingness to make things happen so that we get to that future is not there because of other factors. And so I guess that's why we find ourselves where we are today. This is how many years after the vision was launched. It's only 7 years to the end, to 2030, but we are still making those very, very initial strides. And I think that's probably we need to get our leaders to understand what the future looks like, and then help the country to get there. But as we see it now, probably that is not happening to the extent that we want. Thank you.
Yeah. Before I go to Miruka, I can see your hand is up. I want to just thank Donald for that contribution, because it is coming in at the right time. And this is where we need to ask ourselves a very hard question. For example, if one becomes a governor of a city, if it is the city of Nairobi, do they really understand how a modern city looks like, or a city in a middle income country? Do they really understand how it looks like in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the services, whether it is water, electricity, even settlement? Do they really understand? And those are the hard questions. I'm also happy that Donald was able to mention the fact that even our organizations, we have very, very good visions. But it is one thing to have a vision, and it is another thing altogether, a different ball game altogether, to have it implemented. So Miruka, you have a comment?
Thank you, Gachanja. I'll just follow up with what Donald had just said, because we find that our leaders would want us to move to this aspect of Vision 2030, but then we don't have the aspect of the body and the spirit of moving us there. We have this idea that, okay, we want to go there, but deep inside us, we have not decided, we have not decided, or we have not looked within us on how we want to get there. And so, yes, we may be having the vision and actually even the mission itself, but then pushing ourselves there has been a problem because we have not, first of all, accepted the fact that we want to move there, you see, as a country. So that makes it very difficult or very hard for us even to pull others along with us so that we can channel our effort and our energy towards realizing, that particular vision. When look at the aspect of the infrastructure, you find that, okay, a road we want to put a road somewhere, and you find that the community itself or the environment in which you want to operate in, first of all, does not appreciate or understand the need of that particular road. And so there's this back and forth, the pull and push, legal issues coming in and here and there, and you find that now derails the aspect of the intention that was intended of putting up a road that could probably open up that particular area and hence improve on the aspect of the economy of that particular area. And so we are in it, yes, in body, but in spirit we are not in it, and that's why we find it is very difficult. We find it very difficult to forge ahead so that we can now actualize the real vision of mission and vision of 2030. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much,
Maybe
Miruka.
Mr. Gashau, maybe I make a slight comment.
Yes, Charles.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I want to say that the three arms of government must be able to work together to realize this vision 2030. Because you realize from the legislature, which I think is also a mistake on the part of the judiciary, the National Assembly has funds for CDF that members are able to initiate the projects without involving Treasury or the Planning Minister of Planning and others. We find us duplicating maybe issues of dispensaries, buildings without the issue of doing logistics to see whether you have enough staff to man all this. And so some of these projects must be done in tandem with the three arms of government to ensure we work together. Because if you find the legislature is excelling in terms of politics, we run the risk of wasting the meager resources by politicians like now through the CDF to put our projects across the country, which turn out to be white elephants. And this is made worse by the judiciary, not declaring that the National Constituency Development Fund should be moved to either the counties to ensure members pay their oversight registration and other oversight role, not the execution. So then there is a clear distinction between the three arms of government. We will be able to move forward. I am sure that the immediate former president, the late Emilio, had a team of economists led by a professor in economics from Singapore. He had good intention for the country, but I think that was lost somewhere. That dream was lost somewhere because of those kind of infighting between the arms of government. So the three arms must work together: the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive. That the judiciary should not fear to declare some pieces of legislation null and void because they contradict. Like now, if you members were to involve themselves in implementation, then we are lost. That's why we have all those projects that are scattered all over the country, making losses to the country. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Charles. I can see somebody else has raised his hand besides Miruka. Whose hand is it?
Yes, it's me, Isaac.
Isaac.
Okay, yeah, thank you. First, I would want to follow from what has been said, but I think it is important to note that for the realization of this vision 2030, the private sector also has a very big role to play. While we are calling upon the government agencies and departments and ministries to work together in coordination and various arms of government, it's important to note that this cannot be realized without the real participation and space being given largely to the private sector. Because if you look at most of these countries which are developing, you see that government becomes just a facilitator and enabler in providing the right space and environment, but the actual work and the actual activities to move all this to realization is largely the private sector, which drives the economy. I also think one of the things that maybe has made some of these things become, the realization of this vision become a little bit difficult, is that when it was started, we used to have a very vibrant Vision 20 Secretariat, which I think over time has been overshadowed by other agencies where you'll have, when we came up with the Big Four, which is good, and other programs. But I think we now have other delivery units, presidential delivery units, which are good. But now the Vision 2030 seems to have been swallowed somewhere and overshadowed. So unless it is reactivated so that it takes its central role in driving the actual vision, it will be lost in between and be patched up with short-term programs meant for short-term political gains, rather than the long-term vision that we envisage to have in the coming few years and going forward. Now we are looking forward to maybe in future to, I think it was mentioned the other day, that now going forward we'll be thinking of 2063. So there are quite a number of lessons that we are learning from this. Thank you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Mr. Gachagua.
Thank you very much, Isaac, for that comment and bringing in the dimension of the private sector in the whole operation and the realization of the vision. Actually, government is supposed to act as a facilitator in the especially the economic pillar. You find that some of the other pillars are mainly enablers. For example, the political pillar, we know very well that the economy cannot grow without a stable political environment and so on. And the social dynamics of the country also need to be looked at with a lot of caution. And the private sector, actually the government is supposed to facilitate the private sector to play a bigger role in the realization of this vision. And not only the realization of this vision, and more so, for example, in economic development. For us to realize continued growth in GDP, the private sector must play a very key role, and the government must facilitate the private sector to do so. If we are talking about a middle-income country where unemployment is low, it is not government that is supposed to provide employment. A government is supposed to facilitate the private sector so that when you have a vibrant private sector, then employment is created, whether it is in the agricultural sector, whether it is in the manufacturing sector, whether it is any other sector, and the government becomes a facilitator. And as long as we take that direction, we may not be able to solve some of the challenges that are associated with a country that is living below which is below a middle income or a low income country. So thank you very much for that comment, Isaac. And countries that have actually developed, if you go to if you look at what we call the Asian tigers, the government is mainly a facilitator. It is a facilitator of economic development. But sometimes here we sometimes see the government as an employment bureau. For example, and actually, even when investors come, sometimes we are unable to have created that environment that will make them attract more capital, or even ourselves as a nation to mobilize more capital for investment and therefore creating economic development. So I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. I had seen another hand up.
Yes,
Yeah,
Gachagua, Kitonyo.
Yes.
How are
yes.
you? How is everybody else? Okay, I think I can be able to be seen now. I just want to give a few comments on the topic we are dealing with.
Yes.
And one thing I want to mention to begin with is that, of course, when you look at the Vision 2030, one thing we do appreciate is that it is founded on a very strong economic thought. That one, there is no question about it. And of course, when we look at the formulation, I think that was done well. Where we seem to have issues is on implementation and, of course, tracking what has been achieved. And just to bring everybody on the same level, basically, when you look at, I want to just concentrate on especially the country becoming a middle income country. Basically, what we looked at was that by 2012, which is many years back, we should have acquired and rather a GDP growth rate of around 10% and above. Now, since then and even before, the country experiences a GDP of around 5%, 4 to around 5.5% or thereabouts. We have never hit the over 10%. Now, I want to position this and say that, of course, there is evidence which indicates that corruption in this country guzzles around $1 trillion plus, because we say it's around over 30% of the annual budget, which is almost around 1 trillion. Hanging on there, then there's the question of the GDP per year of this country, what we call the value of the economy, which is around 10 trillion, so to speak. So when you translate the corruption to GDP, you get around 10%. In short, this country, in my view, and largely, has not been able to achieve the 10% because of corruption. So if there is something we can be able to do around there, we can be able to really achieve quite a lot. I can say that it's like 10%, which is lost through corruption, plus around that 4 to 5% will be almost over 15%. So we would have reached there. And that, in my view, is one of the things we need to look at. But we need to appreciate that for the country to grow in terms of economy, of course, we talk of economic development, not growth. There's a question of the incomes and how we can be able to consume that kind of. I know this was disrupted by COVID-19. People lost jobs, they lost incomes, they lost. There's high unemployment. So once we fix that, perhaps we'll be able to be somewhere. But there's one component which you call the government sector. Where we talk of the government expenditure, the government, the expenditure and the taxes. What economists call the fiscal policy. Around there, in my view, a few things have not worked very well. We have financed the infrastructure through public debt, which has really weighed down this country. And we need to work on a few things there. But the question which sometimes is never asked, and I guess I can be heard very well, the question which is not asked is what type of projects are we talking about? We need to have projects which can actually support growth in the near and in the longer term. And that seems to be having an issue. And of course, I've said that whenever we are spending whatever we spend on these projects, think of SGR, think of this serious project, Thika Road and the rest of them. The question is, to what extent do they support the country's economy? Are they the right type of projects? Somebody may need to ask that hard question. And out of that money which is spent there, how much really goes into the projects? And that's something maybe we may need to look at. We have talked of investment, and I want to mention one thing. For all people, we need to note that since independence, foreign direct investment, which you seem to be really ensuring that it comes to this country, has never gone beyond 2% of the GDP. And yet, in the Vision 2030, we set a target of reaching 32.5% by 2012. So what I'm saying is that we need to look at even the domestic investment and see how that may need to be grown. So policies, practices, and whatever we do must be able to really grow that part of it. And of course, lastly, I want to talk about what we call other contributors to growth, which is actually what we call strong institutions of governance. And I just want to pick two: the rule of law, control corruption, and of course, what we call the government effectiveness. The moment we work around there, we are likely to be okay. And because there may be not much time to look at this, I can also refer members to look at how well Kenya is faring as compared to countries like Rwanda. And that's why we always talk of Rwanda as doing very well, because on that aspect, they have really done very well. But we also need to remember Rwanda is a small country, and it can easily be managed as compared to a large economy like Kenya, for instance. So there is a question of size of a country or an economy, when it comes to managing economic growth. And basically, those are the few things I wanted to mention and say that there are a lot of things you can attribute to this, but we need to go down to things we can touch and be able to see what may need to be done. And for me, if we fix the question of corruption across the board, we are likely to really get out of the mess, and at least, and of course, when the economy is growing, everybody in one way or the other will be able to benefit. I know some people don't believe in a trickle-down concept, but I know when everybody seems to be doing well, things are okay. And how do we know that? During the Kibaki years, we seem to be doing very well. Before then, we were not. And basically, around that time, what was key is that the economy was able to grow by up to around 7.1%. We have the systems, but we need to be able to be more serious to ensure that we are able to have to do the right thing. We know the right thing, but the Kenyans basically don't want to do the right thing. So I think when we strengthen the institutions of governance, perhaps we are likely to reach there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Peter, for that wonderful contribution, and even giving us the statistics, the issue of economic growth, the issue of investment, the issue of also attracting investment. It has come out very, very well. I don't know whether I'll be accused of ignoring the ladies in this forum. One of the ladies to contribute so that we have gender parity. Christine.
Okay, I can say something. This is Isabel.
Okay.
I think for me, I really like the discussion. In fact, my hand was up some time back. Then what I wanted to contribute was, I think, given weight by Isaac and Miruka, so I put my hand down. But I think I just wanted to say something about the coordination in terms of the definition you've given us of the vision. That ability to think about or plan the future with that imagination and wisdom. And if I look at Vision 2030, and sometimes people who come up with vision, sometimes if that vision is not clearly passed down and bought by the people who come after them, then sometimes it does not succeed. And we want to appreciate the fact that our former president Mwai Kibaki did a good job with the Vision 2030. And if I remember very well, this is a vision that has really been bought in by the country. But then, in as much as it has been bought by the leaders, what Dr. Kitonyo was talking about, the implementation and tracking of exactly what has been done. Do we still have the leaders, the various leaders at the different levels of government being able to fully implement what we are talking about? For example, if you look at the implementation of the if I may talk about the MT3 and what the government came up with, the Big Four agenda, the four big agendas. If you look at the implementation at the national level, the national government level, and implementation at the county government level, all the way down to the grassroots, what I think Charles is the one who raised the issue of CDF. You know, that coordination of implementation of these Big Four agenda we are talking about, what are the lapses? And even as we look forward to coming up with new leaders on 9th of August, the leaders who are going to come up in place, do they really buy in this Vision 2030? And what is their plan in terms of how are they going to help with implementing or with ensuring that with ensuring that we achieve the agenda of the Vision 2030. So I would look at it in terms of a wider perspective. Even if we go down, look at the MCAs. Can we even be able to interview them? What is your plan in terms of achieving Vision 2030? It mean them is not mainly implementation, but in terms of the roles they said that the county government and also the MPs and the national government, you know, all that we have a coordinated mechanism in terms of implementing the Vision 2030, so that we ensure that from the beginning, what Mwai Kibaki, the former president, had envisioned, can everyone, even us here as strategic leaders, wherever we are in our various places of work, are we able to ensure that this vision, which was envisioned a few years ago, is being renewed every now and then it is being implemented, so that we are able to implement, track, and at the end of it all, being able to achieve it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isabel. I don't know whether, Isabel, you have a pen and paper there with you. Isabel?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yes.
Just write this, and everybody else perhaps. Vision. Okay, start with action. Action without vision. Action without vision. Then also write vision without action. And lastly, write vision with action. So, Isabel, if I may ask, what would you call action without vision?
Sorry, what would I call action without vision? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Basically, this is where you go and start implementing something you don't even know what you're implementing. So you basically don't have a plan or an imagination of where you want to go.
Okay. What about vision without action?
Vision without action, you have a plan, you have an imagination of where you want to go, but then you don't put it into action. You don't do anything, basically.
Mm-hmm. What about vision with action?
Vision with action is whereby you have the vision itself, you have the plan, you have already imagined what you want to, where you want to be in the future, and then you put steps into doing whatever you need to do to reach there.
Okay, now, okay, Miruka, I can see your hand is up.
Yes, Mr. Gachagua, I wanted just to ask a question as we go along. Am I allowed to do so? Hello?
Patrick, you're muted.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question as we go along, so I don't know if I'm allowed to do so.
Let us, I'll allow you to ask the question just as I finish with what Isabel has said.
Yes.
Because it is triggering a few questions which I might throw back to you people.
Okay.
In one word, what would you call vision without action? Or action without vision?
Maybe if I can attempt.
Yes.
Yes. Vision without action, according to me, it's like a dream. And vision with action, I can say it's now the actual change. Thank you.
Someone else? Eric? Eric, you are mute. You are mute. We can't hear you.
Okay, now what I can say is that action without a vision is more like firefighting. Then vision without action is more like a dream, the way my colleague has said. Then a vision with action is actually an implemented vision. That's all I can say.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Eric. Anybody else? Someone else? Donald, you want to try this?
Yes, I do. I would say that action without vision is recklessness.
Yes.
Vision without action is a pipe dream.
Yeah.
And vision with action is, I think that's wisdom. I don't know if I shall call it wisdom.
Oh, that's wisdom.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Ronald. Esther, is Esther with us?
Yeah.
Okay, Barre.
Yes, Mr. Gachagua. Are you hearing me kindly? Yeah. Vision without an vision, vision without an action. If I just give an example, way back 1963, Kenya had a very good blueprint, which was borrowed, which was written by the Kenyan scholars, and it was borrowed by Singapore. And Kenya has no much action on this vision. And the same blueprint which was written by the Kenya put into use by the Singapore. Today, if you compare Kenya and Singapore, Singapore is one of the country among the growing in terms of economy. But if you compare to Kenya, Kenya today is still in the third world country. That is one of the good vision that has no action in Kenya that I can give an example. Thank you, Mr. Gachagua.
Thank you, Barre, for that contribution. Esther, Christine was about to contribute. Hold it, Esther.
This is Christine.
Yes.
Action without vision. I can call it that's confusion. And vision without action, it's like daydreaming where there's no, it's with nothing. You envision to do something, but you don't implement in any way.
Yeah.
And lastly, vision with action. I think this is the way to go as strategic leaders. And yeah, that's
yeah. Thank you very much, Christine. And Bretta wants to say something. Bretta. Yes. Yeah. Okay. This is Miruka.
Thank you, Mr. Gachagua. I wanted to ask a question of what became of us when we look at the ICT department, which was one of the departments, or I would say institution, that was supposed to enable us into getting into this middle income country. But when you look at it critically, you find that it has really progressed since the inception of this issue of Vision 2030. When Honorable Bitame Ndemo was there, he put down the blueprints, of where he would wish or want the aspect of ICT to move, so that it can now also contribute into the economy of the country. Look at what Honorable Joe Mshero has done. It's just built on it. So we are seeing an aspect of vision having been fully developed with taking cognizance of the people who are supposed to, who are meant to enable it, and then it has been established and it has been accepted by the citizenry, the Kenyans, be it the young and the old. They have accepted this aspect of ICT, and you can see it. I mean, even when you come to the aspect of technology, phones, wherever, M-Pesa, and all this. You see, so I'm just trying to ask myself, or we are asking ourselves, what did they do right? Or rather, what are they doing right that is enabling this particular sector to thrive and contribute effectively into the economy of the country that these other sectors are not doing? That's what I wanted to ask. Thank you.
I get your question, and I'll be able to respond to it, so that I first of all react to the questions that I had asked about vision without action. And somebody said it's a pipe dream. Yeah, it's true. When you come up with a vision, it's just a dream, but you have to, even for you to realize your dream, you have to wake up. And waking up means putting your dream into action. Then also action without vision, this just passes time. No, it will just you just passing time, you know. And action with vision with action transforms. So this is what we are talking about, transformation. And for effective strategy, for any strategy to succeed, it must start with a vision. Any strategy to succeed must start with a vision. And this vision must be put into action. And I think that is why someone is telling us, I think it is Barre who mentioned that in the 60s, we had the session paper number 10, which was about African socialism and its application in economic planning. And some countries were able to get some aspects of it, and they were able to implement. And that is why now, that is where now we are going to benchmark to see what they did right. But at the moment, let us understand that even if we have a vision and we don't action it, then it just remains a pipe dream. I'm happy that someone mentioned that the Vision 2030 was premised on a strong economic thought, making sure that Kenya is growing, because for us to be able to attain development, the economy must also grow. And going back now to answer the question that has come out about ICT. ICT is a major enabler of economic development. And I don't know, again, I may ask Donald. Donald, you are the one who asked this?
No, I think it was Miruka.
Yeah, Miruka. Miruka, yes. You have a pen? You have a pen with you?
Yeah, I have a pen.
And a paper?
Yes.
Can you be able to draw a house? Just draw the sketch of a house.
Yes.
You sketch a house.
Yeah.
A roof.
Yes.
And then instead of walls, put pillars.
Put pillars, okay.
Put pillars.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a foundation.
Then I have a foundation, okay.
Yeah, you have a double foundation. You have a double foundation.
Yes.
Yes, and now you put one of the double foundation, the foundation itself, just write productive sector, just write productive sector. And one of the bottom one, I would I know productive sectors in many, but I would want them to be represented by one of them.
You are cutting.
I'm cutting.
Yeah, you're saying that the first one is a productive sector, the one which is on top, and the one which below is called, is what?
Both of them will represent the productive sector.
Yes.
But the very bottom one, put agriculture.
Agriculture.
Yeah, then the top one, you put manufacturing.
Manufacturing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, then one of the pillars.
Yes.
One of the pillars you write ICT.
ICT.
You another pillar you put
infrastructure.
Yeah, another one energy.
I put energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then at the top, the roof.
Yes.
You are at the roof now?
Yes.
First?
No, at the roof.
Yeah, you are at the roof.
Yes.
Just write socio-economic development.
Social economic development.
Yes.
Yes.
So now let us start to how we if you look at the pillars.
Yes.
As even within our discussion here, we have indicated that we can be able to see that the government has invested heavily on the enablers, ICT being one.
Yes.
And energy, so to speak.
Yes.
Infrastructure.
Yes.
And so on. So you find that these sectors they have a big growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if we don't grow, you have heard, the in adage that the backbone of our economy is agriculture.
Yes.
Have you heard that statement?
Yes.
And have we still believe in it?
Partially, we still believe in it. Partially.
Yeah, I think there at the foundation you can also put mining and so on. Now,
mining.
Now, if we develop the enablers of socio-economic development and fail to concentrate on the foundations, that is agriculture, that is agriculture, that is mining, that is manufacturing. What is likely to happen? What is likely to happen is that these enablers will be facilitating economic development in other areas. For example, if we put a very strong and vibrant communication system, if it is telecommunications, for example, as much as it is facilitating, what kind of facilitation is it? How much is it facilitating our economy? Is it facilitating a farmer in Busia or in Bungoma to know the market of their maize, or a farmer in Loitoktok about the price of tomatoes and onions? Or is it facilitating the importation of the same goods from a neighboring country? So we need to be very, very careful, even when we have a very vibrant enabler, because if we're not careful, the SGR will be doing more business for other economies than our own. We will be facilitating other economies more than we do. If we don't concentrate, or if we don't invest on our own base, that is agriculture, mining, and manufacturing. If we don't do that, I'm sorry to say, we may be reaping the benefits right now, but sustainability becomes a problem. We need to be very, very careful, because we have built, it's like building a house with very, very strong pillars, but a very, very shaky foundation. And ICT is a very, very strong pillar for socio-economic development. But the question is, on what foundation is it standing? How strong is that foundation for sustainability? So I don't know whether, Miruka, I have answered your question.
Yeah, you have answered my question partly, but because if you look at the ICT component, it go to Dedan Kimathi University. They are coming up. We have come up with a microchip. This microchip that can be used on phones, and it can be used on phones and several and various machines. That's an aspect of manufacturing. So we are seeing ICT traversing, into other sectors and making the other sectors to be somehow become vibrant. You see, so we tend to appreciate, like right now, what we used to import from China, in those things to do with those microchips. We can now produce them locally. I mean, within our institutions. So, and that is now an aspect of manufacturing, because if you cannot produce this en masse, then we can also at one point sell sell these products outside and get, on our economy. So I see that this section of the ICT, you see, it has been made to thrive very fast with the aspect of adaptability. The common man, in this case, me as a Kenyan, I've accepted to embrace the aspect of ICT and made it part of me. And so anything that goes with ICT, you see, just, going very fast. You see, I can move it to other sectors. And so I was just asking myself, a question, or just thinking aloud, that if ICT has been able, to move this fast, it has been this aspect of adaptability has been very good. What is making these other sectors, like in this case, when you talk about agriculture, we're now saying that, okay, the young ones are running away from agriculture. It's now that we are trying to move back to agriculture. You see, what was the key thing that was making the young ones, or the youths to look down upon agriculture? You see,
let me get there.
Yes.
Thank you. Let me take it from there. I'm happy that you have your contribution is coming out in a very, very practical way. And ICT, one of the key drivers of ICT is innovation. And one of the questions that we may need to ask ourselves is if the level of innovation in ICT was the same level of innovation in other sectors such as agriculture and manufacturing. You can imagine how vibrant our agriculture would be, how vibrant our manufacturing would be. For example, this time round, and perhaps I may need to be corrected. For example, one of the key foundation of this of our economy, which is agriculture, has been devolved. And devolution is quite good, but we need to ask ourselves, of the money that goes to the agricultural sector, how much of it goes to administrative aspects of agriculture, and how much goes directly to agriculture? For example, how much would go, for example, to hire, for example, an extension worker who will be visiting farmers to advise them and so on innovative ways of doing agriculture. I think that is where I have the biggest problem, that where we need to have more innovation. We have put very little resources in that regard, and you find that all resources that go to ICT, much of it will go directly to innovation, because ICT is a very dynamic sector. And you find that as you have rightly said, even universities are having challenges sustaining the agricultural faculties in them, because the youths are not seeing any future, much future in agriculture. Yet we are talking of food security. If we don't have innovative agriculture, how are we going to feed the very high growing population? It's food for thought, so that Kenya does not become a net importer of food, because that is where we are heading to, unless we are careful. So, Bwana Miruka, what I would say at this point is that the reason for ICT growth is mainly the innovation and the investment that is directed to the ICT sector. I saw Mr. Mugambi's hand up. Mugambi?
It's it's Dr. Mugambi. I'm female. No worries. Mine is to debate a bit on what you have. There's no problem, Malim. I feel there is no way we can function in isolation. If we say ICT is growing on its own, agriculture has to be anchored on ICT, health has to be anchored on ICT, and if ICT is only growing alone, then innovations are just innovations that are not really practical and helpful. If, for example, a youth wants to take up agriculture, they have to embed themselves within the ICT platform and be manageable. And as much as we are managers and we are growing to steward leaders, we also need to harness the skills around ICT in order to ensure that our workplaces are functioning to the maximum. So as much as we say other ICT is growing on its own, it can only grow on, it is also working alongside other functions, agriculture, education, health, but it can't grow on its own. And as much as innovations are coming up, we are seeing so many innovations that are of no use, that have been produced. So how do we make use of this within our own institutions as we become leaders so that they are not useless? But for me, I feel ICT has played a key role, especially now that we had COVID ravaging us. As a health department, ICT has transformed how we function. It's improved communication. It's helped us link each other, but we need to find ways to ensure that this improves in a much better way. But the biggest challenge still remains. We have a challenge around energy so that we are more efficient. How do we produce clean energy? How do we produce sufficient energy? How do we reduce the cost of energy? And how do we improve our infrastructure in order for us to have better access? Back to you, Malim.
Yeah, thank you very much, Daktari, for that contribution. And ICT is actually a major facilitator of development in the various sectors, but it is also dependent on how much those sectors leverage ICT. For example, if it is agriculture, how much have we leveraged ICT? If it is the question that we need to be asking is, how is our agriculture benefiting from ICT? How is our agriculture benefiting from energy? How is our agriculture benefiting from the infrastructure that we are putting in place? Because first and foremost, for example, if you take the example of the SGR, first and foremost, the SGR is not put mainly to transport people. In fact, it is mainly to transport goods. If 80% of it is used to transport goods, that would be the best scenario, so that the overflow is what goes to commuter transport. But if our economy, that can only happen if our economy is vibrant enough, our agriculture is vibrant enough to produce those goods to be transported, our extraction sector is vibrant enough to transport those goods, if our forestry sector is vibrant enough to produce those goods, if our mining sector is, and so on and so forth. But if it is not, we may find a situation where our wagons go empty or half empty to the coast, and they come full of goods in other countries, and that would not be the best scenario for this country. And that is why I asked us to really put that house and ask ourselves, how strong? You see, those pillars are on a foundation. The question is, how strong is that foundation? Is it strong enough to sustain socioeconomic development? That is a question that we need to be asking. That we need to be asking ourselves. So at the moment, I would want to just say a few things, so that because we are almost coming to a conclusion, and say that an organization without a vision is like a ship without a rudder. So moving aimlessly without direction. So visions are very, very important for organizations, because if we don't have them, it's like a ship in the sea, which doesn't know, has no clear direction as to where it is supposed to be going. And then I put a few issues here about a vision and the qualities that we need to see in a vision. One of them is that a vision must be very clear. Visions must be clear, very clear and simple to communicate. And because they are clear, when they are clear, the second thing that comes up with vision is that they are capable to attract people. If you communicate a vision with clarity, your vision, you are sharing your vision, it attracts people. For example, when the government communicated the Vision 2030 in the formative stages of the NAC government, we were able to dream of a country where we were a middle income, middle income. I could see drawings of the infrastructure that we expect to have, the kind of healthcare that we need to have, the issue of ICT. That is why we have the Silicon City of what is this city called? Konza. Yeah. The kind of agriculture, the kind of education, and so on and so forth. So we are talking of a clear vision that is capable to attract people, because if a vision does not attract people, it becomes difficult to implement. Then the vision must also be capable of driving a common goal. The vision must also be able to drive a common goal, people to a common goal. So mobilizing people to work together, mobilizing people to put their effort together so that it is easy to implement. Then also, a vision should be able to establish a standard of excellence. what are the minimums? Perhaps one of the things that we have not been able to establish with our Vision 2030 is our minimums, so that we are able to establish a standard of excellence. The whole of last week, I was with a team that is evaluating, that was evaluating the successes of the medium-term MTP3, so that as we usher in MTP4, we know what we have been able to achieve. But in a way, when I look at things and the way we are moving, is that we are now focusing heavily on soft targets. And if you look at even evaluation, in my own view, I am now starting to have a problem with our performance management system. And in my own recommendation, in my own view, we should now stop focusing on anything else but concentrate on the core mandate of institutions, so that institutions are only evaluated on their core mandate. If I was asked, that is the direction I would go. Because sometimes we crowd our performance management tools with support, with so much support activities, and we fail to look, we almost lose the big picture of the core mandates of our institutions. And that in itself, I think that is where we need to go if we are to realize the Vision 2030, so that the achievement of any organization, the CEO of any organization, the minister, the permanent secretary, everybody is not asked about other support activities within the institution. Let those be handled by the Office of the Auditor General and other agencies if they were not done well. But the core mandate, the target of the institution, what it needed to do, what it was created to do in the first place, should be the key thing. And that is, anyway, that is my own view. And I strongly believe that is the way to go if Kenya is to transform and become a middle income country. And that is only time we can be able to establish a standard of excellence that is required. Then a vision should be capable of guiding decision makers. It's very, very critical that because the vision is like a compass, it should be able to guide. It should be able to guide the decision maker, so that in your evaluation of performance, you are able to see the hits and misses of your target. Decision makers can now be able to do. I think there is somebody who mentioned monitoring and evaluation of performance, the Vision 2030, and the monitoring and evaluation of the Vision 2030 must look at the hits and the misses of those targets. For example, if we say by the year 2012, this is what we wanted to have achieved. Have we achieved it? Have those organizations and agencies that were established to do that, have they been able to do that? And lastly, the vision must be able to bridge the present to the future, because you are taking a tour to the future and then coming back to the present and asking yourself how you will get there. Then that needs to be looked at, and looked at with a lot of, in terms of implementation, in terms of putting action, and so on, and so forth. So that is what I would want to say for now, unless there is a question or a comment. Question or comment? question or comment? So if there is no question, I don't know whether my colleague Elizabeth is still with us. Madam Elizabeth?
Yes, Patrick, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the elaborate handling of the session. I don't know whether now you have time. We can look at a few questions that were on the parking lot.
Yes.
I could bring them to you or to the
Yes.
class, to the team to discuss.
Yeah.
Somebody had asked about goals, setting goals, and they were wondering whether we go with the SMART or SMARTer. Maybe I'll give the two questions and I go to the wall to check for others. So do we go with the SMARTer goals or the SMART goals? Yeah. Maybe the team can chip in on that. And then another question that had been asked is that leadership is 20% skill and 80% strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can weigh in on those as I dig into the wall to get some more questions.
Okay, I think for the first one, I'll throw it back to the team. But for the second one, whether leadership is 20% skill and 80% strategy, that takes us to the competencies that are required of a leader. What competencies, what are you looking for in a leader? Because when you talk about competencies, visioning becomes one of the competencies that a leader must be able to have. In other words, a leader who will always can be able to go to the future, construct the future, and then come and share that vision or that future with the people. That's a very, very strong quality of a leader. But skill is one of the competencies. It's one of them. Vision is one of them. All of them are equally important, because even the ability to go to Canaan, see what is Canaan, and then coming back and sharing that, it also requires a lot of skill, because again, also even drawing the strategy itself requires a skill, an implementation strategy, and that implementation strategy enables you to answer the questions: what needs to be done, justifying why it is being done, explaining when it should be done, knowing who is best suited to do what, knowing where it should be done, and then also how it should be done. So this is a mix. This is what we call a skills mix, and they are very, very important, because if you have one in isolation of the other, it affects your effectiveness. However, when we talk of strategy, goals being set, whether they are smart, whether they are smarter, I think that I would wish to take them back to the class. But the most important thing is, and this is that is why I don't want to really indulge myself so much into it. The most important thing is your ability to set that goal, a goal that transforms, whether it is the institution or whether it is the country, or whatever goal that you have. Because at the end of the day, the quality of your goal will be evaluated against the transformation that it has caused. It will be evaluated against the change that it has caused. So the issue of whether it is smart or smarter, to me, I would want at the moment to focus more on that goal that is good enough that goal that is good enough to bring the right transformation. In other words, for example, the Vision 2030 of making Kenya a middle income country, is it a goal challenging enough to transform Kenya? That would be the most important question as far as I am concerned. So back to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thank you.
Still bring it as a discussion back to the forum.
Thank you, Mr. Gachagua. Are there any comments from the forum on the same?
Yeah, I want to say something. Yeah.
Yeah, Ndege, Robert, show us your face. I think I know you. Ndege, let me see, Robert.
Yes, madam. You must be knowing me.
Yeah, how are you?
Now you can see me. Fine, thank you,
yes,
madam.
Nice to see you. Yeah, please go ahead.
Good to hear from you too. Yes. I think the two questions that you raised, the one who posted them. Mwalimu has been able to articulate one of them very well. The other one for the two between the smarter to smarter. In my reading, I saw the two aspects, and Mwalimu has actually talked about evaluated. The goals should be evaluated, and actually the smarter is about evaluating and reviewing. I saw some colleagues talking about encouraging and rewarding. I did not connect, but I think Mwalimu has just explained it quite well. I also thought that once we set those goals, we should be able to evaluate them and at some point review so that we see whether we are heading the right direction. That is all what I can say for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Isabel, your hand is up.
Oh, thank you. I think Robert has actually just added what I wanted to say, because I just wanted to add that when you talk about smart and smarter, it's basically the ER at the end is the evaluation. You're evaluating your goals and revising when necessary. They can be revised, not necessarily that they have to be revised. But I think basically between smart and smarter, what we are saying is that your goals are not 100% cast on stone. So they can basically be revised after they have been evaluated. If they are achieving your objectives, whether if they are working, if they are not working, then you can be able to revise some of them. Then some of these revisions can even be necessitated by changes, various changes, like changes in the industry. You have things like COVID-19 coming up. So all these changes can be able to help when we are talking about the smarter, not necessarily having to stick to the smart goals. Thank you.
Yeah, may I comment something, please?
Yeah. Yes,
Go ahead.
Peter.
Yeah. Now, what I wanted to comment is, of course, on the second one, what Isabella just commented. For me, having smart goals is like having a trouser with a belt, and having a smarter goal is having a suspender on top. Of course, it becomes better anyway. That's generally what I wanted to say there. But there's the first part, which we talked about, 20% is skills and 80% is strategy. I think Mwalimu looked at one side where he looked at the skills and the competencies we require to have. And what this is, the import of this statement is that, in fact, it's like it is better to have a very good strategy, because once you have the strategy, you'll have safeguards to ensure that we remain on course, even if maybe the skills are wanting, whatever it is. So the point I think I picked from here is that we need to emphasize to have a strategy which can be able to take us into the future, And of course, along the way, we can be able to still work on the skills. And even if we don't have the skills, for example, having a better strategy, a good strategy can be able kind of to take us there. So I looked at it from a comparative perspective in terms of importance. And it's like having a good strategy is much more superior than perhaps the skills, although the two are really required. So in the entire equation, we are looking at a 20% to 80%, 2 to 1 to 4, so to speak. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Let me respond to that, Peter. What you are saying is right. What I just wanted to caution is the isolation of a strategy formulation and skill, because skill is just one of the aspects, and even the strategy itself, coming up with that strategy, require a skill. Again, also, skill is one of the competencies. You know, skill is a competence of doing one aspect of something. But now, when it comes to leadership, in terms of leadership competencies, you must bring together. You must bring together so many of them so that you are able to be effective. And skill is one of them. And even because the strategy, of course, you cannot have a strategy without, first of all, having a vision. Because you remember, at one point, I said that effective strategy starts with a vision. And therefore, envisioning, the competence of envisioning becomes very, very critical in strategy. And a strategy starts with envisioning. Then once you have been able to envision and see what you want, you must again sit down and draw a strategy of helping you to realize that that goal, so that the strategy becomes like the compass that you use to navigate that forest. So I think we are talking of the same thing. I was only giving a caution that when we isolate them, when you isolate them, it's like, you remember I was talking about vision with action, action with vision. The moment you isolate them, the moment you isolate action and vision, for example, you have a problem. Again, if you don't put them in a good sequence, that is what follows what, then again there is also a problem. Because if you start acting without a vision, it is also a problem. But if you first of all envision and then you start acting, then that makes you more effective. So Peter, we are talking of the same thing. It's only that I was giving a caution at that point. So thank you very much.
Much appreciated. I've got your line of thought. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's hear Josephine. Then I bring one more question. I think then we can conclude. Ndambuki?
Thank you very much. So my contribution is actually aligning the strategy. So we've talked about strategy, having very good strategies and also skills and competencies. But the big elephant, I think, is execution. So once we come up with the strategies, how do we work every day aligning our actions to the strategies we've put in place? So I think as leaders, all of us here, that is the one challenge that we take out. We may have the very good strategies that we've planned, but are we executing the strategy? And I think that is where the transformation begins to happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ndambuki. Gachagua, allow me bring one more question. And this question is from Hida Munyao. She's asking, and I think maybe Dr. Peter, you can also weigh in, is the commander approach to strategy implementation where the leader uses power to oversee implementation of strategy an effective way? Because the question here now is, or the big elephant in the house is now execution. So do we use the command style? Can it help us achieve the required implementation? Do we need a dictator? Somebody wants to try that? Yes, Dr. Gikonya, if you can weigh in, then we bring in Patrick to conclude.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth, for the opportunity. That was a question, a carved question. I didn't expect it, but basically what I'm looking at is a situation whereby I think it depends on the organization and the events and the stage we are, and what is it do we want to achieve. Because we can also have a situation whereby the leaders caught the vision, the strategy is in place, but perhaps is experiencing resistance. And this is a do or die kind of something which must be done. Now, perhaps there we may need to do that command kind of approach in ensuring that we have a strategy, implemented. But of course, it only obtains in certain circumstances, but not in all circumstances. There are other, options, which should be available to the leader to ensure that we achieve this. So I think for me, what I can say is that we need to understand the situation we are in and see to what extent can it be able to apply in our situation. But the point is, it doesn't apply in all situations. And execution is not necessarily by use of this method whereby you use the power because there are many things which it has also a lot of limitations, so to speak, including perhaps the strategy we are being pushed to where we actually shouldn't even know. Maybe the leader is wrong, but he has used the force. We have reached there. There is no bridge. We can't move, and that kind of thing. All I'm saying is that perhaps it may not obtain in all situations, but it's something you can always explore. But for sure, it is necessary in certain circumstances. Thank you. So back to you, Elizabeth.
Sorry, Eric, do you want to say something? Your hand is up. Eric, kindly unmute. You're muted.
Okay,
Yes,
what I wanted to say is that once you have your vision clearly stated, then make it be a shared vision. After sharing your vision with your group, motivate them, and immediately show them the urgency. You'll find that you're moving in the same direction. You will won't need that command power actually when it's actually a shared vision and you have motivated your group. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Eric. Ellen, do you want to speak?
Yes, thank you. I think I'm also just to respond when it comes to the approach of leadership. The command leadership sometimes can work against the institution. I just want to give an example, like where maybe public servants, public sector, where they're supposed to clock in at a certain time and leave at a certain time. You find people leaving their coats on their chairs, saying they've gone to the small room. But they've gone to, they've gone home, they've left their newspapers. So I think the main thing is to apply transformation leadership where we lead by example. And I don't know that there's a way of using soft commands which can motivate. For example, recognizing workers who perform or follow this and, in a way, encouraging them by offering, stipends or small recognition, awards, because you find like we have a problem with the work ethics. And unless that is addressed, then it will be very hard to change how institutions work. So we need to get into the psychology of the workers and know what works for them. For example, in the public hospitals, you find the same doctors will go to the private sector. They are so kind to the patients. They are always on time. They never miss work. But is it that they're enumerated, they're given a higher pay? Are their working conditions better? Go to the public sector. You'll find so many people are suffering, unfortunately. And you find the doctor is not there, the nurses are not there, flimsy excuses. Is it that they're not paid well? Is it that they need to be motivated? Is it that the capacity, like the hospitals need to be built, the facilities need to be improved for the safety of the people working there? So I think the command may not work well because, we are dealing with social beings who need to be motivated. So I think there's a way we need to get into the psychology of these people who we are leading. And we work together, in fact, even leading by example and offering solutions that they can also chip in how to improve, and in a way involving all the stakeholders in the decision making. Even if it's setting up guidelines, then it doesn't come from top down. Everybody should be involved, so that if it's a choice to change the guidelines of a working institution, then everybody is involved, and then there are stipulated expectations and they know the consequences. If they don't abide by these rules, then we know the consequences. There is an introduction of appraisals. Appraisals is where, leaders don't just appraise the juniors, but the juniors appraise each other and they look at the performance of each worker and see who has done well, So that's my small suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ellen. Let's close this with Isabel and Miruka. Isabel, 1 minute, and Miruka, 1 minute. I think our time is almost gone. Isabel, one minute.
Thank you. Thank you. For the sake of not repeating what has been said, because some of the ideas I had have been said by Eric and Ellen.
Yes.
I just want to add that for me, I would go with the aspect of, instead of command style of leadership, let's do more of role modeling and ensuring that we are selling the strategy to those below us so that they can buy in. But all the same, there's something that I would want to add. When we look at how some countries have grown, like the Asian tigers, I'm sure we all know about them. Much of what was applied was the command style dictatorship, and they still grew. So sometimes it requires different scenarios may require different types of leadership. So that's something for thought to go and think about. But I think for me, I would go with the more transformative type of leadership where we are role modeling. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isabel. Miruka, please.
Much. I think that the command leadership is not good because my assumption is that when the strategic plan for an organization or institution is being drawn, everybody is brought on board, and so they tend to understand what is required of the institution. And so it is from this strategic plan that the vision for the organization or for the institution is also equally drawn. And so when if each and every person get to understand the vision and the mission of the organization that is anchored onto the bigger strategic plan, then I don't see the reason why each and every person will fail to contribute effectively towards the progress of the institution. And so this aspect of making use of command leadership, in most cases, it just kills the spirit of the worker or of the employee. And so if you end up not achieving the objective or the goal of the mission, of the vision, that's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Parashina, make it 1 second, please. Then we bring in Charles. Charles now will close for us because he's our president. He'll speak then close. Okay, Parashina's hand has gone down. Okay, please go ahead.
No. Yeah, mine is just one line that leadership and by extension strategy formulation and whatever we are going to do is basically for, with, and by the people. So I think that sums up why we need to embrace and have people in all stages that we are doing work rather than forcing things on them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Charles, you will speak and then you close the session for us. From me and my colleague, we are very grateful that you are able to be with us this session and that we are able to discuss together. So Charles, say your comment and then you please close the session for us.
Thank you very much, Madam Elizabeth Owino. Mine was honored to appreciate the two facilitators from the Kenya School of Government, Mr. Patrick Pachau and Elizabeth Owino, for the good presentation that we have had today. You can see we have sat all through until the last minute. It has been very educative to us, and we hope to continue interacting, especially on that situational issue, the command issue. What situation can you apply, and when you must have a discussion as we go on. So mine was to appreciate you for the good work that you've done today. We shared the link on time. I ratified the participants on time, and we hope to continue with the same next week. I also want to appreciate my friends, Meruka and others, Isabel, for the good work that we have done today. That interaction keeps us going and educating us on what to do. So we look forward to meeting you again the next webinar next week, and we'll communicate the same way as we did today. So thank you very much for your patience that we have come up this much, and wish you all the best as you start your afternoon. Asanteni sana and welcome again.
Thank you, bye. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Okay. Thank you, I will call you.